All right, y'all. So this week, immigration is the hot topic. I'm gonna play this clip, and let's talk about the first clip of the day night that we're gonna talk about with the topic is the man that was accidentally deported, and let's play it.
Deported a Maryland man to a prison in El Salvador. In a court filing, the administration said Abrego Garcia was deported due to an administrative error. Garcia's lawyer says he has no criminal record or gang affiliations, and he's married to a U.S. citizen. Lawyers for the administration say they have no ability to bring Garcia back now that he's in Salvadoran custody. Trump administration.
I would like to know who's the camera crew that was hired to film this propaganda and what company is literally exploiting the men in these videos for what? Look, I think that a lot of the things that the Trump administration does is, in fact, to distract us. They want us to talk about this so we don't talk about that. Like he comes out and says third term and, oh, I'm mad at Putin. And he thinks he'll get Signalgate pushed from the front of the Sunday shows. But lucky for, well, maybe unlucky for Donald Trump, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. The men that you see in these videos that are dressed in white that the United States sent to El Salvador, your tax dollars are paying for them to be housed there. They didn't just pay for the flight. The tax dollars are paying for every single one of these men, many of them now innocent people who are not gang members, to be housed in a.
All right, y'all. So allegedly, Trump administration accidentally deported this guy. There's a lot of backstory to this. I'm gonna let everyone give their opinions, and then I'll say what has been uncovered. Opinionated girl, are you aware of this story? Do you know the backstory behind it? If not, if so, you can break it down.
I've heard of it, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know the full backstory of it.
So the backstory is this: they said that this guy is a gang member. He denies being a gang member, but the guy in somebody did a deep dive, and I don't want to overtalk everyone, but pretty much it turns out he potentially did have ties to a gang over 10 years ago. He's now been in this country legally. They accidentally deported him to a max prison. I think the biggest thing is that they deported him to a max prison. Skeptic, do you know about it, and what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I do know about it. Him and other ones. I actually translated a report by the Venezuelan government that was asking for, and I have the names: Alberto Garcia, um, Maker Espinosa Escolda, Jose France Carbaredo, Diapa, Francisco Garcia, Cancique, Hersey Reyes Barrios. It's multiple people that have been put in that flight after a judge said and asked the Trump administration not to deport them to El Salvador. These are Venezuelan immigrants. They were sent to a completely different country. They're not from Venezuela. They're from El Salvador. And the reason why the judge said that they shouldn't deport them was because not sufficient evidence was granted as far as them being tied to these gangs. So the Trump administration doesn't want to release at what time the flight left. They're saying that it's national security. Not sure why the time that a flight leaves is national security. But now this Alberto Garcia, who was from Maryland, who had an autistic son, was deported, whose wife has not been able to prove that he was actually not part of the gang. And he's being held in one of the worst prisons in the world. El Salvador was paid $6 million by the U.S. to hold these immigrants, and they are not going to release them. They have not responded to Venezuela, who's asking for the immigrants back. This is what happens when you don't provide due process under the Fourth and Fifth Amendment. We have the ability to ask for due process and to not have unlawful seizures. So, I mean, this is what happens. We break the law and innocent people get hurt.
Enzo, what's your thoughts? Are you sympathetic? What do you think?
No, honestly. Sad to say it, no. Um, yeah, you're going to get innocent people caught up in the system with these mass deportations because the example that I use on live all the time is, let's say you're hanging out in a known like drug house, like a trap house or whatever, right? What is SWAT going to do? They're going to kick in the door. They're going to grab everybody there. They're going to figure out who you are later on. They can hold you for whatever amount of time they want to hold you until they can figure it out. It's unfortunate that they're going to a maximum security in El Salvador, and it has nothing to do with them being Venezuelan or from El Salvador or not. That's where they want to be sent because they know by them being sent to that prison that they're not going to get out anytime soon. Nobody's going to get out of there. And I'm happy with the direction that they're going with it. It's unfortunate for certain people that are stuck in these systems, that are getting caught up in it. But then again, it's a casualty of war. War happens, civilians get killed. Same thing, right? This is people are going to get caught up in it. So
Gray,
that's all I got to say.
I think immigration is the one thing you're like more right leaning for. So, what's your thoughts on this? Are you empathetic? What do you think?
Yeah, that is one thing, but like you said, I'm on the left, so like you have to look at the financials of it. And I know you guys are TikTok live stars, so you probably heard this before, but it's the amount of money they pay in tax revenue being illegal, and the amount of money it takes to like get them back to where they're from. If all these people came here from different places, the amount of flights, the amount of money it's going to take to actually take them to exactly where they're from, it's not gonna be the worth the benefits of spending, getting rid of them, and losing the tax revenue, where they're not also being able to receive social services or any benefits from the government.
Oh man. Um, Opinionated girl, what's your thoughts? Are you empathetic? Should they have self-deported, like a lot of people on the right are saying?
I'm empathetic for any innocent person who unfortunately was wrongfully deported, if that's genuinely the case. From the background that you gave, it sounds like he did have ties. And I'm sorry, I don't care if you had ties 10 years ago. If you commit a crime 10 years ago, you're still going to be held accountable. So if he was part of that, I don't care at all. I think Skeptic actually summed it up pretty perfectly with her last sentence, which is if you are here or if you break the law, basically, and innocent people get hurt. You broke the law, innocent people get hurt. These gangs have made a mockery of our country. We have fentanyl pouring over our borders, which is killing Americans. You have gangs in places like Colorado that have taken over entire places. To say that illegal immigrants aren't getting any financial benefits from American taxpayers just isn't true. We're housing them in New York City hotels. They're getting 3 meals a day paid for, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care about your taxpayer dollars. America is doing just fine financially without it. I care about law and order, because without it, you don't have a country. And it seems like it's only a problem when America enforces their laws.
Oh, you said it. You sounded like me today on that live. I had a live today. People came up. They said they're illegally here. I was surprised. I was like, "You really illegal?" They were like, "Yeah, I'm illegal," and they were shocked. I gave it to them straight. And I'm going to give it to you straight right now. I am a child of immigrants on both sides. My family has spent $35 to $50,000 easily on attorneys. They've been arrested. They've had issues, and they fought it. You gotta play the game. You gotta get an attorney. You have to play the game. If you're here, you came through the border and then you're shocked when you get caught. What did you think was going to happen, and why are we more empathetic for these people than the crimes that they're committing, than the fact that they are undercutting Americans, taking jobs, getting paid under the table, when that hurts American families too. They're taking resources. Whenever they get hurt, they get sick, they go to the hospital. We got to pay for that too. If you don't have insurance, you're not here legally. That hurts American families. So I'm sympathetic. They had to leave their countries. I understand that, but I don't understand why it's heartless to say I'm concerned for my child's safety for someone being here illegally. And most of the people coming through the border, they're not telling you this. They are able-bodied men. They're not women and children coming here. They're full-grown able-bodied men. It was an invasion at our border, and that's facts. I mean, and the other thing is this MS-13 thing, which we're going to talk about. I'm going to play this clip from Carolyn Levitt. She touches on it as well.
This deportation case. First, I wanted to clarify something that you said to Jeff a few minutes ago. You said you'd seen evidence that this man was a convicted gang member. In what court was he convicted and for what?
This individual was an MS-13 ringleader. This individual was also engaged in human trafficking. And I'm glad you brought up this point again, because I would like to point out that if you just saw the headline from the insane failing Atlantic magazine this morning, you would think this individual was Father of the Year, living in Maryland, living a peaceful life, when that couldn't be further from the truth. They didn't even mention in the title of that article, or even in the first paragraph, that this individual is an illegal criminal who broke our nation's immigration laws. He is a leader in the brutal MS-13 gang. and he is involved in human trafficking, and now MS-13 is a designated foreign terrorist organization. Foreign terrorists have no legal protections in the United States of America, and this administration is going to continue to deport foreign terrorists and illegal criminals from our nation's interior.
But a judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration
It was
judge.
an immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior. And let me tell you why we've made this commitment. MS-13, may I remind each and every one of you, is a brutal and vicious gang. They raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. They hacked 4 people to death with machetes in a park on Long Island. They have kidnapped, sexually tortured, and shot a teenage girl in Texas after she insulted them, allegedly. Killed and mutilated a 17-year-old girl in Virginia, stabbing him 16 times and cutting off his hands. They beheaded and cut out the heart of a man in Washington, D.C. They raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl in California. They sex trafficked a slew of young girls, including one who was just 12 years old. Raped an 11-year-old girl in Brooklyn while her brother was in the room. Sex trafficked a 13-year-old in Maryland and Virginia, miles away from this White House, even beating her 26 times on her backside with a baseball bat. Pressured homeless New Yorkers to undergo unnecessary surgeries such as spinal fusion in order to bolster their fraudulent lawsuits. These are vicious criminals. This is a vicious gang. And I wish that the media would spend just a second of the same time you have spent trying to litigate each and every individual of this gang who has been deported from our country as the innocent Americans whose lives have been lost at the hands of these brutal criminals. We maintain our position, and very strongly so.
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Another thing that I would like to touch on about this story is I do have the documents that said he was initially detained in March 2019 and charged with removability. He crossed the border illegally in 2012 and thus was removable, totally independently of whether he was in MS-13 or not. So nonetheless, this guy knew he wasn't here legally. He's been detained before, and it's the normal story of these people. And I'm sorry, it's going to seem heartless, but they don't show up back for court. They come in, they leave, and they're not playing the system. They're not being tracked in our country. How do you defend that, skeptic? And I'm not
Can
trying
I
to
get the
change your
name of the
opinion.
person that you're talking about? Because I'm pretty sure either new
It's
information
in
has
the
been
chat.
released about
Somebody
him.
put it in the chat.
Because Abrego is the person I'm talking about. Abrego Garcia.
I'm talking about Abrego. I can show you the document right now that I'm looking at.
As of 2 days, ICE deported as an administrative error that he shouldn't have been deported. And whenever we start looking down into his history, he never lived in New York, which they're claiming in New York is where he had ties to MS-13. So if ICE is admitting that they shouldn't have deported him, that he was mistakenly deported, and that he actually doesn't have ties to MS-13, then we just deported an innocent person and did not give them the ability to due process. I also wanted to say that in America, we have had people that worked as prison guards in Yahtzee. I don't know if you can say that on YouTube, Yahtzee camps, and we gave them the right to due process. So the fact that we said that Tren de Araguas was a terrorist organization, which a foreign terrorist organization, is using violence for political gain. I've never heard these gang members want to move forward in politics or talk about politics. So I think that we used a policy that was meant for people that are coming here to try to invade our country to not give due process to people that are here, that are immigrants that were actually legal because he actually had a work permit. He was here under asylum, which makes him legal. So if we're not going to respect our own immigration laws and call legal people illegal and then deport them without letting them talk to a judge or go through the proper immigration process, then we don't respect our own laws. That's as simple as I see it.
Well, opinionated, what's your thoughts on that?
MS-13 is invading our country. Illegal immigrants are invading our country. To me, that's political when you're completely disregarding law and order. And I think that it's kind of ironic, right? Because they don't even care about their own people. If you genuinely genuinely care about illegal immigrants, because people, for whatever reason, whenever they're debating this subject, always forget to put illegal. They go, oh, you don't like immigrants. No, I have a problem with people breaking our laws, and I have a problem with the way that they treat the children while doing it. If you look into these coyotes who are smuggling these people over our borders, why are 300,000 minors unaccompanied? Why is that happening? Why is there such severe sex trafficking? If you talk to anybody along these borders, it's terrible. They'll go out and they'll find bodies in their own yards because of the horrific things that they're doing. And that includes to people who can't pay them the money for smuggling them over the border. That includes anybody who they think that they might be sketched out by. So they're going out and they're murdering their own. So if you genuinely care about these illegal immigrants, you would want it to stop too, because it's extortionary and it's disgusting.
So I want to say that the number that we have for MS-13 is like around, I want to say 15,000 of what they're saying. So I don't know about them invading our whole country. Also, this gang was started in Los Angeles by Salvadorian immigrants. So I guess we can conclude that all people that are coming from El Salvador are trying to invade us via MS-13. But I do want to look at some statistics when it comes to crime and undocumented immigrants. When we look at crime in the undocumented community, we see that it's lower than the average American community. Undocumented immigrants commit half the percentage that Americans commit crime. So that's 2 times less than Americans commit crime. Since undocumented immigrants have been coming to America, we have been deporting them when they commit a crime. So this isn't a new thing that we're deporting people because they're committing crimes. Under the Obama administration, we actually had higher percentages of deportations than we do now under Trump. And I just want to say, it doesn't make sense that if you're here undocumented and you're not legal, that you would be committing crimes left and right. Now, I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm saying that the statistics don't say that they commit crime more than Americans.
Actually, 100%.
Wait, hold on, guys. Let's give Enzo a chance. Enzo, they're bringing drugs through the border. Isn't that an invasion? What's your thoughts? Also, 15,000 MS-13. Why would we know of the real number if they're coming here illegally? What's your thoughts on that?
It's a little fishy in my eyes. If they're coming here illegally, how do we know 15,000 came over here? They're bringing drugs. They're, in my eyes, I'm not even just looking at just MS-13 or anybody coming through the southern, or any gang members coming to the southern border. I'm just looking at who's realistically coming to this country. Doesn't matter what country you're coming from. They're coming. They're military age men at the end of the day. And that was my biggest issue watching the caravans over the last couple of years. Of, I'm not seeing women. I'm not seeing children. I'm seeing men in their 20s through 40s coming to this country. We don't know what's going on. We captured, I think it was like 150 known terrorists that came into the country over the last 4 years. Okay, how are we going to say we only caught 150 of them when there was 8.5 million people came into this country over the last 4 years? How do we know there's not more terrorists in this country that are plotting something against us? Like, could be a 9/11 2.0, because they came here legally, but nowadays everything is a lot more strict with airports and coming to this country, so they're going to find different means to come here. That's the way that I look at it. When it comes down to MS-13 and Tende Aragua, I'm happy that they designated them terrorist groups at the end of the day, because I think all gangs should honestly be considered terrorist groups in some effect, because they're terrorizing neighborhoods, they're terrorizing cities. It's disgusting in my eyes. And it's with Tende Aragua, you can absolutely classify them as a T group on the simple fact because Venezuela openly knew that they were sending them to our country, so therefore enacting the Enemies Act of 1798. We could literally be going at war with Venezuela for sending them here because of that. So it shouldn't be as a gray area as it is. It's black and white. People are coming to this country illegally. They're criminals. They need to get out. I don't see due process for anybody who openly broke the law to come here. You should just turn your ass right around and bring right across the border.
I just want to say another stat before. 80% of people that bring drugs from the southern border are American citizens. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
I just also want to throw out that your stat before was incorrect, because 100% of illegal immigrants are breaking our law because they're illegal. You could change the word to undocumented. It doesn't change the fact that what they're doing does violate our country's laws. We're also referencing preventable crimes. Let me
just say 42% of people that are here came here through visas.
Just
So we
because,
actually allowed them here. They
yeah,
came
and then
here.
they overstayed the
That
visa.
we know of.
Now violating the law. It doesn't matter if you came here legally. If you're now illegal, you are still violating our law.
So when
And
they
when
come
we're
through visas,
talking
they come
about,
legally.
one second, when we're talking about preventing crimes, right? Because that's what we're talking about when we talk about the crimes that they commit. Yes, of course, American citizens, unfortunately, are going to commit crimes. There's no real way around that. The same way every country has people who are going to commit crimes. What we can prevent and what could have been prevented is the death of so many Americans, because under Biden's catch and release policy, there were illegal immigrants who were caught and released and then went on to do horrific things to American citizens, like an illegal immigrant who came from Central America and then went on to murder a Georgia grandmother in her own home after he was detained by the Biden administration and then let go of. This, unfortunately, is not a one-off case. If you are here illegally, you are breaking our laws and you need to be held accountable for that. We can prevent you from harming Americans. And this is just talking about the crimes that we have documentation of, right? Because there are so many cases of, for example, hit and runs because they don't have driver's license, they take off. There's so many cases of diseases that we've eradicated in America being brought back by these people because we don't know their medical records. We don't know what outbreaks they have in their countries that they're now bringing over the borders as well. It's not so simple as, well, you know, I feel really bad for them, so somehow the laws just don't apply to them.
Yeah, I mean, we can cherry pick a crime and then make, blow it up and make it mainstream media to say that they're coming in. But when we look at the actual statistics of it, undocumented immigrants are not committing crime at the same rate as Americans are. And when I say that they're here illegally, they are actually committing a civil offense because when you enter here undocumented, you are not a criminal. We don't see you as a criminal. You are breaking a civil offense. Now, if you re-enter after you've been deported, then you have committed a felony. So I do like to differentiate between those two.
Let me chime in
There's
here,
different
guys.
kinds of crimes.
And opinionated girl, you definitely are passionate. You need to give Trump a call. Pretty sure he has a job for you somewhere. The first thing that I'll say is that, like, I think that, like, when you say terrorists, you're kind of downgrading what terrorism is. I'm a veteran. I've been to Iraq. Trust me, no MS-13 gang has anything on the groups over there. Every house has an AK-47. These people are building bombs. So, I mean, like, I don't think
what about the cartel,
MS-13,
though?
but they don't have the type of intellect.
You say that because you're in Florida. You're not in a state affected by
No,
MS-13.
I
That's
say that because I'm
disingenuous.
a veteran and I know
I
people that have
appreciate that,
crossed
but
them.
there are people affected by these gangs, and that's not fair.
And we're not saying that's not true, but the definition of terrorism is carrying out a political agenda. When like you say, just call all gangs terrorist groups. That's crazy. That's a crazy statement to make, because then you are now you're taking someone who may have is doing something that's criminal, but you are upping that to a like, we have to understand
Okay,
the
so
difference in
when
laws.
these white T boys go and
Hold
they're
on. It
doing
was
these
my
mass
turn.
shootings,
Hold on.
when
It was my turn.
but I understand that. But when these white T boys are doing mass shootings, are they not doing terroristic things? Like, come on now, y'all are being disingenuous here for real.
Domestic terrorism.
Seriously.
100%.
That's domestic terrorism, like he just said. That's a mass shooting. What you're downgrading is you're saying that a gang is the same as a terrorist organization. There's no way that Hamas is the same as MS-13. That's just not
It is the
accurate.
same. It is the same. When people are going in communities and doing mass shootings, shooting up places, doing drive-by shootings, Chicago, places like that. Thank God we live in Florida, because you are
You go
immune
to
from
the
it.
VA, you go to any veteran center around here, you go tell those guys in wheelchairs and those guys that are missing limbs, you go tell them that that's the same thing as that's MS-13, as whatever gang, and let's see what they say to you. The people who win and risk their lives, let's see what they say to you. But my secondary point on this is basically like, I feel like what Trump has done with putting crime and saying that crime, and I feel like this is an analysis on Black MAGA, because I remember in the 80s and everything before, they used to put a black person that was like in jail or whatever else and say, oh, we got to stop crime. We got to stop crime. And this is why you see so many young black men becoming MAGA, because they see Trump aligning and not putting them on the bottom and him basically making illegal immigrants the new boogeyman in America. So that's just what's going on. That's the reality of it.
The same way Hamas took over Gaza, though, the cartel has basically taken over Mexico. They are infiltrated their government, and the Mexican military itself is having trouble even getting them to stand down.
How many
They
heads
have
have they cut off?
military. The cartel has military-grade weapons.
How
They
many
are
heads have
shooting
they cut
bombs.
off?
I'm sorry.
How many heads have
How many heads have they cut off?
Many heads.
A lot.
One of their.
I haven't seen any.
You should watch the videos. They
Bro, I got another. You know what? Pause. I got another clip. Hold on. Pause. I have another clip. Let me break this down for him, guys. Hold on.
All my security cabinet are believers. They all believe in God. We're a secular country, of course, but we all believe in God. So, yeah.
MS-13 is one of the major gangs.
And they are satanic also.
That was my question. So very little.
Sorry.
No. But I would hope you will explain it, because very little has been written in the West about this.
They're satanic, yes.
But actually, literally, can you explain?
Well, they didn't start as a satanic organization. They MS-13 started in Los Angeles, in the U.S., because Salvadorans weren't allowed to sell drugs by the Mexican gangs.
The apartment, and the gang members said they wanted to offer the beast a soul. Police say Hernandez Rivera and Alvarez Flores killed the girl execution style. Killers confessed to the crime after they were arrested. 22-year-old Miguel Alvarez Flores, there you see on the left, and 18-year-old Diego Hernandez Rivera on the right appeared in court this week. Now, according to HPD, most MS-13 gang members are in this country illegally, and these two murder suspects could be as well. Police say they have reported the two to Homeland Security. Now, an investigator told us this morning that officers found evidence in the apartment where these gang members were keeping underage girls that led police to believe there was some sort of satanic ritual activity happening there. HPD says there were 3 underage girls in the apartment of the murder suspects, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old who was murdered, and then a 16-year-old girl. Police say the 14-year-old told detectives she was kidnapped, drugged, and sexually assaulted by members of the MS-13 gang. Now, the 14-year-old also reportedly told investigators she was moved from one apartment to another, forced into consuming drugs and alcohol, then at one point was held down as Alvarez Flores tattooed the image of the Grim Reaper on her body from her knee down to her foot.
You're muted.
I play all that so you can be aware of their activities. They said the news said this, not the right-wing media. This is news. Most of them are illegally here. How do we know how many's here? They raping girls, they kidnapping girls, they doing satanic rituals, they chopping off heads. I'm sure I can find that clip. I don't have that right now. But I mean, you guys are being disingenuous here to prove your point that there are good legal immigrants. And I'm not saying that there's not. But the reason why the reason why we are doubling down is because the ones that are not good are causing ruckus, harming Americans. Me personally, I value an American life over someone here illegally. Sorry, I just do. And that doesn't mean what?
You're being this is the thing. This is what you're not understanding. What me and Skeptic are saying is that a terrorist organization is different from a gang. Gangs are bad. I'm not saying gangs are good. They are bad. They are committing crimes. I'm saying Osama bin Laden was a billionaire with sophisticated things going on and a group of people who were doing something for religion. So like it's kind of like a very different. You're downplaying what the people in the Middle East did compared to like Mexico. The people in the Middle East are trying to like control their country and get Americans out of their country, where like the people coming over the border are trying to get a better life. And then gang members are trying to like make money. So I mean, like, I'm not trying to nitpick here, but like the terms are just different.
We have 11 million undocumented immigrants in America. That's a 3.3% of our population. So yeah, there are going to be people that are committing crimes. That's not what we're saying. When we look at statistics, we look at it per capita, which is per 10,000 people of that community. And we can see that if you commit a crime and you are undocumented, you will be deported. We don't agree with you being here and committing crimes. That's not, I've never said that. If you're here, you're breaking the law, you will be deported. What I'm saying is that the fact that we're criminalizing all undocumented immigrants as if the overall community is committing crimes left and right, which isn't what the statistics are saying.
If it's 3%, why y'all care so much? Why y'all making this an issue where you're burning down Teslas, protesting in the street? Why do you care if it's only 3%? It's not 3%. The thing is, the fact that you guys are confident in that statistic when they're here illegally, how do you know that that number is real? Like, come on now. 11 million alone came in under Biden.
For the
Listen, this
last 4 years, they couldn't
this is
tell you how
getting
many
too
people came
emotional.
into
This
it.
is getting too emotional.
I'm not emotional.
It's
I'm,
getting
I'm
emotional.
passionate about it, but I'm fine. I'm good.
Well, I can tell you one way that we know, because America has allowed undocumented immigrants to pay taxes under ITIN numbers. We know that 50% of people that are here undocumented pay taxes using ITINs. We've allowed them. We've given them an identification tax number to pay taxes. They don't only pay sales tax, they pay payroll taxes, 30% on that, and 50% of them are actually going and filing taxes because they think that in this way they're going to one day find a path to citizenship. I will say this. When it comes to the Trump administration, they overconflate the fact that undocumented immigrants are doing all these negative things, when in reality, there isn't really a solution for undocumented. What policy is he saying that we're going to pass? Because the last time that we passed policy for undocumented immigrants was in 1996, IRA under Bill Clinton. And we actually saw an over inflation in population of undocumented immigrants because IRA didn't do what it was meant to do.
Just really quick, I wanted to point out, because Gray was saying about Osama being a billionaire. The leaders of these cartels are absolutely billionaires. I highly recommend looking into Al Chapo, for example. They very much so have a stronghold in the political sphere. They're members, high-ranking officials in these governments. So to say, oh, well, Osama was rich, these people have sickening amounts of money. And like I said before, I think that it also ties back to, are these crimes preventable? We know that we can't necessarily always prevent crimes happening from American citizens. We can absolutely prevent crimes happening from illegal immigrants who are breaking our laws by being here. And I can assure you, under Trump and what his administration has been doing, we're seeing the lowest rates of illegal immigration. So saying, well, regulations or putting laws in place won't work, it's working pretty damn well with him.
What laws has he passed? Do you know? Can you name me a law that he's passed?
Been able to speed up mass deportation under the clauses that he's invoked in order to actually get these people out.
What I'm saying is, what actual policy is he passing?
He hasn't placed any policy yet. He's been building the border wall. He's enacted the clause in order to allow for the mass deportation of these illegal immigrants who have been sitting there. He ended Biden's abysmal catch and release policy, which is rewarding criminals. So I'd say he's doing pretty good. We're not seeing a rise in illegal immigration under him, that's for sure.
But I think once he leaves office, we're going to see the same thing happen again.
Well, if we get another Democrat, then probably.
But. Well, because we have no actual policy. We have no actual solution other than him talking and us listening to undocumented immigrants being criminals.
The solution is to strengthen our border and actually hold people accountable for their actions, not say, okay, don't do it again.
Right. So we're going to override due process and send them to El Salvador camps.
Okay, guys. Enzo, what was your input?
I don't see anything wrong with how the Trump administration is going about it. I'm going to sit there and die on that hill. I'm happy with how things are going. Opinionated. You couldn't have said it any better. The last administration just said, "Oh, don't do it again." And my whole stance on it, like, I understand it's a misdemeanor. It's like the same fine as jaywalking. In my eyes, when it comes to the border, we need to set a no tolerance policy when it comes to that. Like, why is that the equivalent of jaywalking? Like, why legally is that it? No, that should automatically be a felony. If you cross the border illegally, you should not allowed to be come back into the United States whatsoever. That's like, it's idiotic to me. It really is.
You know what no one brought up? The reason that it's a misdemeanor is because the corporations need to work. That's why.
Yeah, and I disagree with that 100%. It's disgusting to me. It really is, because these people are working $7.25 is federal minimum wage. Nobody can live off that. They're giving these people home or room and board, and Nora talks about it all the time. That's disgusting living situations. They got 12 people to one room, and then they're getting paid far less than what a livable wage is, just to exploit them. It's disgusting. I look at that as the same thing as an indentured slave. You're getting paid, you're getting a room and board just to do cheap fucking labor so we can have cheap produce, so we can have cheap fruits and vegetables. No, it's disgusting in my eyes. I do not agree with it. I will never agree with that. I will never be fine with that. I would rather have higher prices for everything so everybody has humane living conditions and humane wages.
For sure. Well, Nora, are you hosting or are you jumping in and arguing with everybody?
I'm not arguing with nobody. I gave my opinion because that's what we are. We're a panel style show. So we can now do our closing topics. Ladies first. Skeptic, I'll let you go first.
Just what I always say, man. We have to follow the Constitution. Don't let anybody trample your constitutional rights. I mean, that's what our government is based off of, and I always say it. You know, we the people.
Okay. Um, Skeptic. I'm gonna play this clip from your show, and then after you can let everybody know where we can find you at.
Virginia Jerif was one of the very first victims of Epstein to come out and publicly share her story, and now she's on her deathbed. She had publicly accused Prince Andrew of partaking in the activities alongside Epstein, which she is now suing him for. And all of a sudden, she gets into a car accident with a bus driver, and now she's in the hospital, claiming that she only has 4 days left to live. This is an incredibly brave woman, and obviously, we're all hoping that she makes it, but the circumstances surrounding her ordeal seem a little bit questionable, to say the least. What also seems questionable is the fact that our government has been in possession of the list of Epstein and his perpetrators for a very long time now, and yet nobody is behind bars for it. They have Ghislaine Maxwell in prison, and somehow she can't help them to convict anybody else. When you have an entire island dedicated to pedophilia, that's not enough to raise the red alarms of the government. Now, I'm a big Trump supporter. I like the fact that he ran on what he said he would do. But my one caveat is the fact he said he would release the Epstein list. And when it was released, it was so heavily redacted that it was basically useless. The people deserve answers, they deserve names. And the victims of these horrific people, if you can even refer to them as people, deserve justice. And yet our justice system proves time and time again that if you are of a certain tax bracket, justice doesn't apply to you.
All right. Opinionated, let everybody know where they can find you at and say your closing thoughts for the people.
On TikTok at that opinionated girl. For closing thoughts, thank you for having me. I really like this forum and getting to discuss the different topics. I think that unfortunately our society has moved far towards basically separating from each other. If you disagree, you can't disagree civilly anymore. So trying to bring that back is absolutely great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. I'll let Enzo go next. Enzo, what's your closing thoughts?
It's, Kanye's a nut. I don't know. He needs to be Baker acted 100%. When it comes to immigration, we're all going to have different stances on immigration. I understand everybody's sided. I talk about it almost daily at this point because that's the number one topic everybody loves to bring up. You just gotta look at it at face value. Like I said before, we should have a no tolerance for illegal crossings. If you want to come to this country, do it the same way that your ancestors. If you're born in America, my family's from Ireland and as well as Italy. They both came here through the legal processes, even though it was completely different back in the day and it was a lot easier. That's the legal way. Come the legal way, or don't come at all.
All right, great. What's your solo thoughts?
Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the audience. It was jumping. Opinionated girl, thank you for coming. You definitely have a voice for like media. It's the way you talk. You're extremely passionate. So this was an emotional night. I was definitely entertained. As far as the legal immigration and everything going on, I mean, it's wild. But Trump is in office, so we got to see what he's gonna do. And like, share, subscribe. Great.
Okay. So it wasn't emotional for me. It's all love. Skeptic is still my girl. I don't know why men think that women can't debate. It's pretty sad to think that they think that it's emotional. I'm sure Opinionated will come back. She loves us still. But America, if you are watching, 3%, 11 million people, according to skeptics statistic, are illegals. Why are we making this dividing talking point, a division thing? If it's only 3%, why do we care so much? We care because the 3% that has come in has unalived people, has robbed people, has been deported and then came back in the country again, burned people on trains. The list is endless. And there are good people in the number. So I'm not saying that, but do things the right way to all the people here illegally. Like I told the people on my live today, if you are here illegally, get an attorney, do things the right way. My family did it. You can do it and it can be done. And to those that are in the process, I'm sending you prayer. I am empathetic to you because, again, my family's done it. My entire family's done it. So shouts out to everyone going through the process. Shouts out to everyone rocking with us. We will be back here Monday evening at 8 p.m. with the Man Cave Show. Monday and Wednesdays, Man Cave. Tuesday, Thursdays, a New Party podcast. If you're watching for the first time, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate all the support. Yeah. And like we say on the New Party, always vote. God bless everyone.
Introducing the New Party. We live stream Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.